other thing going on. I was directing another show already when Greg asked me to do this, and if it was any other time, I would have said no. I would have stretched myself way too thin. But because he asked me and this was the last show in this building, I had to say yes. So for 2 weeks, I spent doing double rehearsals. So I'd work all day long at work. I'd come to this rehearsal, do this rehearsal. I'd leave. I'd go to another rehearsal. So I was pulling double duty. And the only reason I put myself through that was so that I could direct the last show in this building. People think I've appeared a lot on this stage, but you know, it's probably somewhere between a dozen and 20 maybe over many years. My first show was in 1978 with John Vyers. So that spanned over a long period of time. There were many seasons where I didn't do any shows here, but several other seasons where I did one. So while I think I'm pretty well known in the community, really I haven't spent all that much time on the stage. This is my first time directing here, and that was another reason I wanted to do it. I was asked, and I had never directed for La Crosse Community Theater, and I said this is my opportunity, and you know, and what an opportunity being the last show in the building. So I jumped on it. Yeah.
No pressure.
Elsewhere, I've directed at UWL. I've directed for La Crescent Community Theater. I directed Heart of La Crosse for a long time. Yeah, so I've directed many times before. I have not watched the movie since last year. At first it wasn't a conscious decision, but once I read the script, I went, I'm having a lot of images in my mind, I'm seeing a lot of things, how they're going. I thought, I am not going to watch this movie. I do not want to have that influence me too much about how I'm seeing it play itself out on stage. So I tried not to watch the movie. It's different. I'm sure that our characters are different. There are a lot of iconic scenes. Some of them do not appear in the play. We've added a couple of things to kind of give a sense of some of that. But yeah, there's got to be a couple of parts that people say, oh, they didn't do this. And they may, I don't think they'll be disappointed, but they may notice it, especially if they've watched the movie just before they come to the play. I hope people don't do that, but they may. Really fun. It's going very well. We've had to change rehearsal schedule a little bit because there's so many kids in the show. When I agreed to do this, I didn't realize that there were that many. I was thinking, oh yeah, there's a few adults, just a couple of kids. And actually it's the other way around. There's quite a few kids and just a couple of adults. So it's been interesting because the majority of the cast are children. And so we have to, especially time-wise, adjust our rehearsal schedules. They're still going to school. They've still got homework. They've still got other activities. The other night, one of the kids had student council to go to, and one's had a basketball game they had to go to. So you have to kind of adjust to their schedules and make sure we get them out a decent time. You know, and with the kids, of course, their parents are bringing them down here. Some of the parents stick around for rehearsals and things. But we just have to make sure that we get a lot of work done in the short amount of time that we have. So we're only rehearsing a couple hours a night. So that's been the big change. We can't push it real hard. On the other hand, the kids are real fun to work with, and these kids have been just great. I mean, you'd think that, you know, oh, you have to work with kids, they're going to be noisy, they're going to be disrespectful, they're going to be running around. That hasn't happened at all. These kids, I think, are all very much into theater, at least into being into this production, and they have been just great. It's also been interesting as a director too, because I'm directing at 2 different levels as well. Because I've got the kids which take a different level, and the adults which take another level to direct. For instance, with the adults, when the adults are on stage, I'm sitting in the audience directing them from a seat, and they're following stage directions. With the kids, I find them up on my feet and running up on stage and doing that part of the thing. I have to. It takes different techniques to motivate the kids compared to the adults. So that's all very fun. The kids need a little bit more like acting lessons kinds of things, so how to keep themselves open on stage. Sometimes they need help with stage directions, that kind of things. The adults generally have that down. So you're I'm working at two different levels depending on who's on stage at the time. I haven't really even thought much about it. I mean, I certainly, as I said in the beginning, I was very aware that this is the last show. I wanted to be a part of it. When I was asked to direct it, I said, of course, because this is the last show. But other than that, I haven't had any, certainly no negative feelings about doing this at all. I feel it's moving on to a new situation. My fear is that they're going to start yanking equipment away from me or taking things out as we're using them for this show. But you know, it's a great opportunity. We get to move to that great brand new building. I mean, if nothing else, just to have the women's bathroom on the first floor, I think that's going to be a huge selling point for everyone. But it's going to be great. I don't look at it as a negative thing at all. This old girl has served us so well for so long, and it's time to move on to something else. I don't know how many community theaters there are in the state. Of those community theaters have their own facility, but I don't think it's very many. I think this is a very unusual situation. I have a brother that does community theater in Janesville, and they have a performing arts center where a whole bunch of groups use it. They got to fight for time. They have to rehearse somewhere else and then move their show into that facility. And it makes it tough on them. They don't get a chance to really build the sets that they want to. They don't get a chance to work on a stage like they want to. Here we're rehearsing in our own space and doing our own thing. It's great. I work for Appleseed Community Theater sometimes, and they've got a beautiful stage in their high school, but school comes first, and things get bumped off for concerts, and rightfully so. Concerts, other things coming in, that kind of thing. And so we have very limited time on stage and very specific times that we're even able to do theater. Here we have our own facility. We've had it for, what, 45 years? How wonderful is that? And now we get to move to a new one? Psh, that's great. That is just great. I was so looking forward to it. So, I haven't had any reminiscence, any, melancholy thoughts about this building at all. And I am so glad it's been here so long. It served us so well. And now we get to move on to something new.